to this second season of Looking Ahead. This is a really wonderful program that Director Core has been able to produce in conjunction with NASDAQ. And the purpose behind this short video is to surface some key leadership issues that will help officers and directors get just a little bit smarter, a little bit faster. You know, we've all been navigating these really unpredictable last few months. And while we typically come to you from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I've got a CEO in Wilmington, North Carolina, who's gracious enough with his time. I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C. And again, this is Looking Ahead. We're going to talk IPOs that have recently taken place, in particular, the largest technology one of recent times. So Pierre Naudet is down in Wilmington, North Carolina. I just want a quick little wave of your hand to make sure we're good to go.
Alan, great to see you again.
Great to see you too, because I've known Pierre for quite some time. Back in the day when he was hanging a sign on the worldwide headquarters for nCino, which really is one of the standout cloud-based computer companies in the world, there was this idea that you could transform banking. And over the years, he's been able to grow his team, currently over 1,000 full-time employees. As I mentioned, a recent addition to the NASDAQ through a great IPO. And what we want to talk about today really are the key takeaways that he learned through that whole process. We've got 5 things I want to talk to Pierre about. Are you ready to join me, my friend?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
All right. So as I mentioned, nCino has this great technology platform that helps banks really modernize the way they do business. When you thought about going from a private company to a public one, especially during a pandemic, you know, were there periods of pause, or really when did you start working on the transaction itself, and really who did you invite into your core inner circle?
You know, Al, that old story about the sign we hung up to say worldwide headquarters, and we had 7 employees, that's actually true. And we did it to set the mindset ready for this day, because we always said we're going to build a big company with everything in place to be a public company if we want it to be, okay? So towards the end of last year, we started looking at this. We were very fortunate to find David Ruder, our CFO, which is critical. You have to make sure you've got the right CFO for the job. We made sure we've got all the controls and the systems in place to run as a public company, make sure your books are in order, the right set of auditors. So there's basic infrastructure you have to have in place. And then, of course, as the pandemic struck, you know, we had a timeline. And all of a sudden, everything paused because the world changed as we know it. And then what was very interesting is we kept our, you know, fingers on the pulse of the markets. And when the VIX came down, we realized there may be a window here, an exceptional window for IPOs. And we actually restarted the process. So we had our bankers lined up, we had our systems in place, we had our board over the line to actually do this. And then we pulled the trigger and in real quick time got it done.
So now tell me a little bit about the factors that you think really got investors' interest up. Because, you know, everyone's doing things by Zoom. How are you able to communicate what you were bringing to the market?
I will tell you, as I look at that virtual roadshow, I will never do it any way different, okay? It was pretty fantastic, slept in my own bed every night. But here's the real thing that mattered. The bankers got a stellar number of investors to look at the company. And we made sure they understood that digital transformation, especially with COVID, and the mindset of your consumer has changed. That digital transformation is going to be critical to the future of any enterprise who wants to survive. You could look at retail over the years slowly move to more of online shopping and the impact it's had. Or banking is going to go through a much faster transformation, because now with branches closed and you can only get there with an appointment, your people has changed, your customers have changed their behavior. So we think it's an imperative now, it's a strategic imperative to rebalance your expenses from physical infrastructure to more of a digital marketing, digital presence, as well as automating everything in the middle back office. And so that's going to drive massive demand for nCino.
Yeah. Well, you talk about sleeping in your own bed. That's nice, because I know that, you know, back in the day, you were a true road warrior. You're South African by birth. I know you span the globe with your traveling persona, I guess is the term. But your board is also an interesting mix of people and personalities. How did you keep them informed, being that you were, again, kind of locked in the state of North Carolina?
Yeah, that was one of the other things we did last year, is to strengthen the board, brought more people on. Really people with deep banking credentials. We actually got an investment banker on board, John Doyle, because he knows bankers so well and he understands banking, okay? But throughout the process, we had a set schedule with update calls for the board. We kept them informed at all times. And then, very important, my general counsel, Greg Orenstein, I call him my consigliere. He's been with me for a long time in the previous public company as well. And he literally built a very close relationship with the board so that every week they got updates, sometimes more formal, sometimes more informal. And realize one of our board members, Jeff Horing from Inside Venture Partners, literally owned 40% of the company. So we had a direct line to Jeff, a tremendous investor, gave us advice on his previous experiences. And then we strengthened, for instance, governance and got on Steve Collins as the head of the audit committee. So you strengthen your board, make sure they're informed, but they must be smart enough to leave you alone to execute, as long as the bumpers of safety is in place. And I would say it was a great experience.
Well, you talk about the experience you've gained in a short period of time. If you could go back, let's say 6 months and tell the old Pierre one or two of the lessons that you think he would benefit from, what would it be?
As I look back over the experience, I would say it moves so fast, and you get into this execution mode. And I was a president of a public company before, so I somewhat knew what to expect. Okay, but I would say I would have engaged with my bankers earlier to make sure I understand the process 100% and be ready for this. We did it because the bankers are our customers as well. We basically selected them, and it was a great experience. But I think you could never prep enough. You can go back, go through the processes, understand the economics, understand how the buy and supply side is going to work on your stock, and also understand your options in the lockup periods, and do you do follow-ons or not. To educate yourself on your cap table properly, to understand, are the buyers truly long holders, or will they sell the moment the stock run? There's lots of education around the type of shareholders you're going to get, and then how do you maximize the cash you bring into the company.
Yeah, and your team is incredible. You mentioned starting small. I remember coming down to Wilmington right when you were starting up, and the culture you set then is, I think, the culture you still have. It's incredibly collegial. There's great collaboration. The energy level is high, on a regular basis, but it just sometimes jumps up to levels that I think most companies would love to have. So I'm curious, to wrap everything up, how did you keep the culture at nCino where it was pre-IPO level?
So the first thing is to understand, why are people concerned whether you can keep the culture? And so I walked around, got to know a lot of people, asked some questions around this. And what you realize is they are scared you're going to become formal, number one. And number two, the confidentiality will be in a different place. And what I then learned from this is to go back to the people and say, look, you've never seen as much information about this company, the finances, me personally, etc., than what you're going to see after the IPO. It's a lot more transparent than a private company, okay? So get over this. We're still going to take care of our customers. We're going to build the best product in the market, and we're going to be highly successful. The fact is we have good access to the public markets. So what I would tell you is I think it's a benefit being public. It sharpens your focus, okay? Gives you access to great shareholders, and just continue on and take care of your customer and focus on innovation. So to us, it's actually a benefit as opposed to a negative.
Yeah, well, and Pierre has done an incredible job. So we, just want to thank you for sharing your time, your insight. Thank you for looking ahead. For anyone who's interested in an IPO, you could certainly learn a great deal from the work being done at nCino. Again, I'm Al Dominic. Thanks for watching this episode of Looking Ahead.
Thank you.